Hello, it's RBB. I hope everybody's doing peachy keen today because we're going to do a cool thing which will totally change the way that you 3D model. And this, like everything else we're learning, is really the same in probably any 3D modeling program. When you learn the 3D modeling, you want to make sure that you're learning the skills, not the specific software, specific buttons, right? So, what we're going to talk about today is extruding. Right, to extrude. And if you want to know what like extruding is in general, if there's some kind of material and it squishes out or pulls out, like in theory, when you squeeze out toothpaste, you're extruding it. Or a lot of cheap toys and things are made of extruded plastic. They take a surface of plastic and they vacuum suck it, I believe is the technical term, and turn it into something else, right? So extruding it is to take a shape and kind of extend it. So in 3D modeling, um, extruding helps us to take a simple primitive shape, and if we can't make it do what we want to do, English is hard. Like we talked about the other day about adding divisions and beveling and things like that, we may want to extrude. So that's what we're going to talk about. So we see that right here we've got a table, right? A table group. We played with this the other day when we learned how to duplicate things and group things and all kinds of stuff like that. And you'll see that it is made of tabletop geo and legs 1, 2, 3, 4, table group. But that may not be exactly how I want to necessarily make an object. I don't necessarily want every piece of it to be a separate piece of geometry. Oh, I was just testing you. What's the first thing we need to do when we start Maya? Set project. Correct. Let's set our project. Boop. Okay. There we go. So extruding, if we look at an object like a cube, so I'm going to make this guy a little bigger, hit R, make that guy a little bigger. Extruding, I don't want to get too complicated. Most likely, if you're watching my videos, you're going to be extruding faces. Okay. So we know what faces are. We know we can choose faces either by holding right click or going to our modeling toolkit. Okay. And if we choose a face, right now we know that we can extend this face, right? I can grab this component and move it back and forth. I can scale this component, right, in any way that I want to. And I can even rotate this component, to some degree without sort of breaking things. Okay. I had more than one face. Okay. But let's say we want to do something more to this. So I'm going to drop down another cube, R, to scale this guy up. Now, what I want to do is, let's say I want to make like a handle, like the grip of like an axe or a big knife or a pew pew type thing. If I grab my face here, and I want to look and make sure I don't have any other faces, this is really helpful in extruding. But I'm going to grab the face that I want to extrude. And in the modeling toolkit, it's also up here and it's also up here. But in the modeling toolkit, you'll see extrude right here. And if we hit extrude, a couple things happen. Okay, one thing is as soon as we hit extrude, we see down here that it says result poly extrude face 1. The poly extrude face little menu pops up and we get this new weird widget, which looks like it has move, scale, and rotate all together. What has happened is Maya has made a duplicate face exactly in the same place as that first face. Now we know, like in physics, that two things cannot exist in the same place. So we have to do something with that face. Okay, and in this case, I'm going to move it. Now, often in extrusion, the blue arrow, which is the Z, is going to pull it out, right? So if I grab the Z arrow and left click and drag it, ooh, it's like I pulled out a drawer, right? Now, it didn't affect the original cube, but it took that face, made it an additional face, and stretched it out. Okay, so the reason for this is, let's say I need slightly more division. So I'm going to move this down. Let's say I'm trying to make like a curved handle. Okay, then I could do this again. I could extrude again. And yes, I know there's hotkeys and other ways to do it more than once. Okay, and I can keep moving this down. Maybe I want to rotate it a little bit. But the key is whenever I extrude, I must change that face. So let's say I'm making the curved handle of an axe or a knife or a pew pew. This is the way you would do it. Because if we just took the face, like this, and we tried to move it out and say down, see, there's no divisions. There's no way to sort of model it. So if we just need to move it out, great. Okay. But if we need to like make this face say bigger, we can make it bigger like this, but that's not exactly what I mean. If I watch what else you can do with extrude, if I say extrude on this one face and I choose the scale icon, which is the little cubey thing, right? And I grab it here in the middle to scale proportionally. Look what it did. It took that face and it just made it bigger. Now, Maya doesn't like just that, right? Because see all the little sketchy things? Maya's like, no, I'm not real keen on this just yet. We have to move it. So if I move it a little bit, whoop, okay, I have duplicated the face and I've made it bigger, which makes a nice, like, bevel, right? So now I could do that again, right? I could extrude again, ad infinitum, okay? And you can extrude anywhere. So let's say this is my pew pew device here, okay? And I want there to be some kind of button sticking off the side over here. I'm going to grab that face, okay? And if I hit extrude, I'm going to make this face smaller, okay? See, I'll pull that duplicate face in. Now I could just pull this one out, right? I could pull this one out, and maybe I will just to make it modeling a little interesting. And I'm going to extrude again and pull that out. So now it's kind of like a button or activator thing or something. Now, Maya still believes that this is a cube. It still believes it's a six-sided cube. So later on, when we get all fancy and we get into UVs and putting textures and things on here, it's going to matter because it thinks it's just wrapping a six-sided square, a six-sided cube, but it's going to have to stretch all this stuff and it's going to get all crazy. But we're not doing that today. Let me show you what happens if you extrude but don't move something. So I grab this face and I hit extrude, and then I'm talking to my friends. Oh my God, can I tell you about Brenda? And I don't do anything to it. Okay. And then I'm like, oh, I don't remember if I extruded or not. I'm going to extrude again. It doesn't yell at me. It doesn't give me any warning. It doesn't look like anything happened. But what happens is now I have my original face, an exact duplicate face, and now another face. So there's like a ghost face in there. And if I try to move this now, you'll see that it's like Maya doesn't know what it's doing. Like when it starts doing this sort of black and whatever glitchy color like that, it's like, yeah, I don't know what you want me to show you. Okay. And I can try and move it. It's like, oh, no, look, you could fix it. There you go. Look, fix. What are you crying about double extruding? But remember, there's another face in there that I didn't change. So what's likely to happen is if I go to do something to, say, this edge, it should be broken. Yeah. See how it should be pushing in that face together, but it's like it's acting like it's a separate piece there. Okay. It's almost impossible to fix a double extrusion unless you catch it like really quickly, right? Because you remember there's an extra face in there. And if you're doing a pretty simple model, it might not throw up all over you, but it's bad modeling practice. And later on, it will mess you up because it doesn't really know, like, it's against, like, it breaks the physics, right? So that's a problem. So the only thing we can do is either start over, okay, which often winds up being the case depending when you catch that there's a double extrusion, or if I look down here and if I hit Control Z to back up, okay, there was a move, undo, select, undo, move, undo, select, undo, select, undo, 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 poly extrude. Now remember, that's the second one. Undo, poly extrude, that's the first one. Okay, and now we're back and this isn't messed up anymore. So if I grab this face and I move it, it's going to move the way we think it does. If I extrude it one time, like I'm supposed to, right, and then I grab this edge right here, this will pooch in the whole side like it's supposed to because there's not a ghost face there. Okay. So remember that Maya generally, like a lot of programs, will step back about 20 times. So if I've done less than 20 moves, I can Control Z back before that poly extrude. But if I've like, oh man, I did it over here on this table a day ago, I can't fix it. And it's way easier to just delete it and redo it than to try and fudge it around and fix it. Okay. But the best habit is to just don't double extrude to start with. All right. So there you go. All right. Let's look at some other cool things that extrude does. So yeah, we can take any shape and basically extend it. All right. Let's put this into practice with what we've done before. Let's grab this, whatever that is. All right. Let's make a table. One of the things I want you to be real clear about is, so this is all one piece of geometry, okay? It's all one piece of geometry. Maya sees it like this, right? It's just geometry, one piece, all stuck together. No extra things in there or anything, where you can see this as separate pieces. You can build something out of one piece of geometry if that object is made of the same material. Now, to sort of explain that is, if you look at the desk or the table that you're sitting on, sitting at, probably whatever the top of your table is made out of is probably different material than the legs. Okay, unless you're sitting at like an old-fashioned kitchen table and the top is wooden and the legs are wooden. Maybe the top is metal or plastic and the legs are wooden or made of cheese or whatever. If they're made out of a different material, then they have to be a separate piece of geometry. Okay. And it's true in the real world too. I can't just have something go halfway across like a piece of wood and suddenly it turns into some other material, turns into glass. If I need there to be an inset of glass, that has to be a separate piece of material. So keep in mind that unless something is made of one solid chunk, it needs to be made of separate materials. Now, if I'm carving a table out of a big old chunk of stone and I'm making a big old stone altar, which always makes me think of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because, you know, everything in the 80s was traumatic. If I'm carving a big giant stone altar like that, then the top and the legs are made out of the same giant stone and therefore could be the same material, the same piece of geometry. The other thing is, let's say I'm building an altar and I have a big giant slab on top. The legs I could build separately. Now, they still may be made out of stone, but they're not literally made out of the same exact piece of stone. Okay. So when we look at this guy right here, I'm going to hit F and focus in on it. Okay. And I'm going to make this guy bigger, bigger. All right, now this is going to be my table, so I'm going to try to remember to go ahead and label this. I have that poly cube over here. Maybe I'll call that extrude practice. I just want to keep up with this so that I don't wind up with suddenly 20 or 30 unnamed things, which would be terrible. Okay, so I've got this table and I'm going to shrink it down to, you know, this size. Maybe I'm going to make it thick because this is my Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe altar. So sad. Okay. So I need to pull some legs out of this. I need to extrude some legs. In the attribute editor, if we went to the third tab like we did the other day, and I could change the divisions, right? I could change the divisions this way, and I could change the divisions this way. And now I've got like the size maybe where I want to pull out these four faces. Okay, so this is not the way I would do it, but I'm just going to show you. I could have this face, select, shift, select, shift, select. I'm going to look around and make sure I didn't accidentally grab anything else. Okay, and in my modeling toolkit, extrude. Remember the blue pulls it out. Boop, there's my legs. Okay, now that's great. There's nothing technically wrong with this, except for that I have a whole lot of geometry I don't need, right? I got a whole bunch of faces that are all reporting back to the renderer that I don't really need. Okay, so we learned a little trick the other day, and we're putting all of our stuff together, right? That's why these things, whoa, that's why these things go in order, and I think we're on number 6 now. Okay, make another cube here. Boop. You have to say boop. Okay, I'm gonna make that guy fat and big like this, Gotta pucker up your lips like this. Okay. If you recall, when we made edge loops, okay, and again, there are many ways to do it, but I'm going to go up to Mesh Tools to insert edge loop, and I'm just going to sort of carve out the legs that I need. And here, let's do another thing we've already learned. I'm going to hit spacebar, and that's not going to show me what I want. I want my orthographic top view. so I can see, make sure these are sort of the right scale, the right size, or they're even. So I'm going to do another. Yeah, that looks evenish, close enough for government work, right? Okay, squarish here. Click and drag on a hello, click and drag. That looks squarish. And that looks, why am I having a hard time there? There we go. Squarish. Okay, I'm going to hit space bar and go back to my perspective view. Okay, now I have to hit Q to stop making edge loops. Now if I grab these faces, right, face, shift face, shift face. I'm going to make sure I didn't grab anything weird. Extrude. Now I've got a great altar for which to sacrifice Aslan or whatever his name is with way less geometry, right? So that's great. That's a well-modeled piece of geometry. Now, what else could we do to it? We know that we could bevel the edges, we could do all kinds of cool stuff. But as far as extruding goes, we were careful to make sure we only extruded once and we didn't make more divisions than we needed to. Everything's building on what we've already done. Okay, let's look at extruding some other things where extruding might be helpful. I don't want this to necessarily go forever, but it's very helpful. All right, I'm going to move these guys. Move over. This cube 1 needs to be a table 2. Small table. All right, because I'll forget to. All right, there we go. Maybe they're nesting tables. Oh, that's so fancy. Just more stuff to dust, right? Okay, so with extruding, you can choose more than one face, right? And if you extrude out of something, we want to make sure that that is the same. It's going to be the same material. This is all going to be wood, or it's all going to be stone, or it's all going to be plastic. Now, some people ask me, and I see my students do it all the time, and I want to clarify if I was making, say, this object, and I'm already past, all this kind of stuff, and I need to stick a new piece on the front. If I make a new cube, I don't know what I'm making over here, but let's say I make a new cube. Okay. And I shove that guy like that. Okay. It can be part of this just like a group. Okay. Again, I'm not really entirely sure what I'm making there, but this is one piece of geometry and this is one piece of geometry. Maybe I'll call this the pew 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 barrel. Okay. Now, because this is metal and this is metal, it could be the exact same thing. I do not have to combine these things. I see a lot of my students grab both of these things and then they'll come over here and they'll combine the geometry together, in which case Maya treats it as one piece of geometry, but it's not necessary unless, like I'm taking this into a different program like Unreal and animating it or something, then that program may want all of these pieces combined. But if this is made of wood and this is made of plastic, do not combine them into one object because it has different materials. Okay, so these two are shoved up right against each other. They're part of the same thing. RBB, I don't want to have to keep grabbing these different parts. Well, what did we learn the other day? I can grab both of these, Control G, group, and this is my pew group. Okay, it's a vacuum. Let's pretend it's a vacuum. It's like a suckalux. Okay, so now this is one piece of geometry and this is one piece of geometry. They can be the same material, but they don't have to be. This all has to be the same piece of material. Now you'll say, you're not the boss of me. I can make this face look like wood and this face look like cheese and this face look like gold. You can. There's a lot of things that Maya will let you do that's wrong, but it's wrong, right? So you're learning, right? Don't get in the habit of doing things wrong to start with. So let's look at a couple other extrusion things real quick, and we'll try and wrap this up so it's not too long. Let's look at something like, this is something I have done a lot in my world. Let's say I'm making some kind of gear. Now, I hear some of you out there going, oh my God, you're so dumb. Over here, there's like a gear, right? But there didn't used to be a gear. And let's say I want something very specific. Okay, so I'm going to grab the faces. Now my gear is obviously all one piece of material, right? It'd be kind of dumb to have a gear that was made of a bunch of different pieces of material. I'm going to zoom in, whoop, and I'm going to choose every other face. This is why Maya was kind to us and eventually just gave us a gear. Because back in my day, you had to do it like this. Okay, so I have every other face selected. Look, oh, see, this is why we check. That's bad. To get rid of that, I'm going to control and click on that, right? I got nothing else extra. When I extrude this, okay, all of those faces are going to pull out in relation to the center. Right? So I make this cool cog or gear or whatever, whatever the word is. Okay. And I can make this as fancy schmancy as I want to. I could then grab all of these edges and bevel it, right? I can do all kinds of cool stuff. Great. There we go. That's lovely. So that's the reason why you might extrude more than one face. Oops, there we go. I have to undo that because that pole there was going to make me crazy. Probably this is not going to be a hero item and isn't going to be right up in the camera's face, so I'm not going to worry about it all that much. You can extrude in any shape, in any face. Okay, we're basically sticking to faces right now because we're new, right? If you weren't new to Maya, you'd be watching something else. So I'm just going to randomly grab some faces. Okay, extrude. Woo! Okay, and they will all pull out in relation to their, to the normal. The normal, remember, is that antenna sticking out of the middle. Wherever the normal was facing, that's its forward. Okay, so there you go. That's how you can take a relatively simple piece of geometry and grab a part of it. Let's say this is I'm gonna go backwards till I see the poly extrude is gone. Okay, let's say I want to make this into a pool float. You're like, what? Okay, I'm gonna grab these faces. All right, and I want another row of faces here. There's a lot of ways to make this a little quicker, including there's a little brush tool right here that when you choose the brush tool, and I can hit B, hold B as in beta, and drag left and right to make this bigger or smaller brush. Okay, but as long as this brush brushes over the center of a face, it will automatically grab it. So it's a great way to grab lots of faces at one time. But let's say I don't need to do that. All right, so I'm going to make this into like one of those like baby floaty pool things. Okay, look around, make sure I didn't get anything else. Extrude. Okay, you're like, what baby do you have? And maybe I'll grab this edge, that edge loop. Okay. I don't want this part of it, so I'm going to say, not you. So I just have this edge loop. Maybe I'm going to raise that up a little bit. Maybe I'll bevel that edge. Okay, so this entire floaty thing is made out of probably one piece of plastic or a couple pieces of plastic or an extruded piece of whatever. Okay, now this isn't great. I would want to bevel all these edges and make this so it doesn't cut the baby or whatever. But for the most part, this is a great, this is one rubber piece of whatever so we can go float around the pool. Okay, and if we want to be very good, we will label this floaty thing. Floaty thing. Okay, I got this poly cylinder over here, which is my gear. All right. So that is a very brief introduction to extrusion. And we're getting close to being done with some of the basics that we can go on now and start building something cool. So in my number 7, which will be the next one, we're going to build something specific. Okay, we're going to build something sort of simple that we can build on for the next couple courses or whatever. All right. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Get ready for your quiz. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.